So good everyone and welcome back to another edition of this data analysis training. In this section we're talking about SPSS as usual, and we're talking about data entry in SPSS. I don't think I've actually explained it, so I should have actually made this video before the descriptive statistics. So when you open SPSS, we're presented with two faces, which is the variable view and the data view. So the variable view allows you to specify the name of the variable, and by variable I mean colons. So SPSS categorizes colon as variable, so they're basically the same thing. So in the latter videos, if I use variable, I basically mean colon. So I just want us to note that. So moving on, so we can name our variable name and specify the data type. So for example, let's say I have age, right? So by default it's going to identify that it is a numeric data type. So we might want to change this depending. So I'm going to name two types of age for a numeric data type, like a number, like a continuous data type, whereby it is actually discrete because it contains no decimal points, so it can only contain O value and an O value, sorry. There's a difference between discrete and continuous data sets. A continuous data set has like a decimal values in between. Like for example, all of the numbers between 1 and 2, you can say that the value can be 1.5, 1.7 to 1. You can say that it is there's kind of decimals in between, but the discrete values are like 1, 5, 8, 9, 10, 12. So those are the discrete whole number values, and those are the ones we're actually talking about in this particular data, this particular variable type, sorry. So width is actually talking about the number of characters. Like for example, if you are using a string data type, number of letters. For example, car, if you are basically like want to write car, like automobiles, like this normal car that we drive, is just you just need a 3 width, you just need to write a width of 3. But basically when you are writing an what's it called, an integer data type or like a number variable, you don't really need to like change the width because it basically does not concern you. Then moving on, we have the decimals. So this is where we specify the number of decimal values we want after our number. So this one is basically for numeric data type, while this width is basically for string data type. So since we are basically dealing with which is a discrete data set, we don't really need to add decimal values below, so we can just reduce it. Then label, we can just name it as age of respondents. Right, so values, this basically is for categorical data sets. So it's basically if you want to like categorize your data sets, like 1 represents the children which are less than like from 0 to 13 years of age, 2 represents adults, and 3 represents the old people. So it depends. So this one is if you are going to have some missing values, so we leave this one the way it is, alignment. Then move to the measure values. Since it's since it's a numeric data type, it's going to be measured as a scale data type. Then each category, and also when naming a variable in SPSS does not allow space bar, so you cannot name it like this. It's going to bring an error message saying it contains an illegal character. So instead, you are going to use an underscore. So like this, age underscore category. Okay, and there's an error in what I wrote, so it's going to be like this. Yeah, age underscore category, and it's also going to be a numeric data type. Since it's going to be a numeric data type for a categorical data, because like we are assigning, it's more like we are mapping it. So we are mapping numbers to some specific characters or factors of age. So when we get to these particular values, I'm going to let us know what I actually mean. So we can name this one as, okay, we can, so it's going to be 0 as well. So age categorical, right? So value is going to be like 1 for 0 to 15 years of age, right? So if you are in the age of 0 to 15 years, you are going to write 1, like you're going to take the 1 instead, and 2 for 16 to 25 years of age, and 3 for 30 to 55 years of age, basically. So 2 for 16 to 25 years. So you can see that we're already assigning some numbers to some specific categories of age. So instead of, let's say you now want to input the data set, so instead of writing the person's actual age, if the person's age fall around this category, you're just going to write it with the value that is represented. For example, let's say I want to insert a data set that of a 20-year-old person, and since it actually falls in between this age, I'm just going to write 2 instead. So, but since it's already a categorical variable, it is not going to be scaled anymore, because it is not, because it is basically not an integer data type already anymore, but a categorical data type. So it's going to allow us to like try to choose between ordinal and nominal. But this one is a specific arrange, it contains a specific arrangements, and this one does not contain a specific ordering, like I said in the previous video. But since there's a specific ordering in this particular variable, like for example, consider 0 to 15, 16 to 25. 0 to 15 is basically let's say children to a teenager and early teenagers. Then 16 to 25 is basically a mid teenager to an adult. Then also I want us to talk about the nominal data type. So you can see employment, employee, yeah, employment, or basically let's write as detail, right? Also in numeric value. I'm also going to talk about the string data type as well. So 1 for farmer. So you can see that there is no specific ordering for this particular data type. So 2 for students, right? And 3 for doctor. So it's going to register as an employee details and the nominal data type, right? So moving on, we are going to talk about the string data type in SPSS. So we are going to talk about so let's say full name, or let's say name basically. And since name is already basically clearly written, we don't need to write a label, because this label basically what it does is basically allows us to better understand this variable name. Because yeah, this particular name section is basically limited, so it's basically provides a summary of our variable name. So this label is actually the basic is basically the performing this function instead. It's basically performing the function of of the um, variable name. So moving on, we don't need to specify some values. This is not a categorical data set, so you are going to change this to a string data type. And these characters, because there are people that have names of more than 8 letter words, so let's change it to 15. And we can decide to name it any data type or any measurement type we want to. So and moving on, we can also include, I want to include this data type as well. So day, month, and year. So this one is going to be years. So employment data basically, or I'm just since it's like basically a random data set, so there's no really time to like think of anything. So I'm basically just giving an example of how to input data in SPSS, so it doesn't really add up. Let me just write employment, year of employment basically. So and if you want to do it that way, then that definitely it's only the farmers and the students that are going to feel it, or the students can actually feel it as well, probably the years they entered the university, more or less. Then values none. Then you can try to also give it, or let's say just leave it as a skill data type actually. Then move to data type, you can see that all of our variables has been named. So it's more like trying to insert data in Excel like that, instead of trying to, like in Excel, all we just have to do is just like in the header just write the column names and everything. Then you go to the category types, like specified data type. Well, instead in this particular SPSS, we have to first of all assign the variables and the data type and everything before we now start to like insert the values. So age in this particular one, let's say 15 years of age, right? So you go to the age category, double click on it, and you can see a drop down already because we've actually created it already. So 0 to 15 years of age, and detail, let's say student, obviously. Then name, let's say Tola, right? Then years, let's say day, month, year, right? If you are unsure of actually what you stored it as, just go back, day, month, and year, right? So you can see 29th of March 2023, right? So you can do the same for this particular one. Let's see 18 years of age, right? So it's in the second category, 16 to 25 years of age. You can see that 18 is actually in the second category. So I want to, like, let's say farmer, and let's say Stanley, and what was the day he started farming? Let's say 31st of January. Sorry. Yeah, so this is the brief thing. This is basically everything you need to know on on importing, on like trying to write your data, trying to write your data manually on SPSS. So if you have any question, let me know. Thank you very much for watching and have a nice day.